Hey, welcome back, guys. So now we want an algorithm to tell us exactly which item should be selected next. So now the thing is, if you remember very well, it's very possible that selected cells is going to have more than one selected cell. So we shouldn't care if there's a bunch of selected cells. The only cell we should care about is the one that was selected first. That's the only one we should care about, so that when we press left or right, we're going to move left or right of the first selected cell. So what I will do here, at this point, I'll create another function, not inside the function, but I'm just going to call it here even before we've created it. That function is going to tell me get next cell, or I don't know what we're going to say. Let's call it something easier. Cell to select. I don't know if that's even easier at all. Cell to select, yes. So we're going to say var to select is equal to cell to select. So what cell are we going to select here? What will we give this thing? So let's give it the very first selected item here. So I'm going to put a 0 right there. So the currently selected cell is there. And yeah, actually that's probably all we need. But also we need to know the mode like that. So I'll put mode and I'll put selected cell like that. So now once it tells us what cell to select, right? All we need to know is to check for those things. So how exactly will it tell us what to select? So it should tell us two things. It should tell us the row number, the number contained in that row, and the column name and the row number, right? So this is going to be an object containing two items, row and column. Okay, so let me copy that. Now this loop here exists already. That's going to loop through everything, right? So the only part we are checking for is in here. If this is correct, what we're looking for, then once this is correct, we exit the loop because we have found our cell. Yeah. So once we find our cell, then there's no need to loop anymore. So I'm just going to say break here, break. So what break will do is it will stop this looping, but then this loop will continue. So we have to tell it to break twice, right? Break 2 like that. I think this is a thing. Hopefully I haven't, yeah, hopefully this is correct, because break 2 I think will go 2 times. I'm not really sure. Should it be break 1 or break 2? Oh my god, I'm lost there. But it's okay. Let's try break 2 and see what happens. Okay, so once we break there, yeah, we're supposed to also change the selected cell, and we're going to add an item in there. Yes. Very nice. Okay. So here I need another variable. This one will be variable new, I don't know, the one that we're going to select next, right? New cell, maybe we'll call it new cell or something. Here it's going to be equal to a null, just like that. And once we find it in here, then we set it to whatever it is. But if we don't find it, it's going to be a problem. So I'm just going to say if new cell, if there is actually a new cell, then let's do this. Let's add it as the selected one, right? We empty the selection and then add that new cell there, like so. Let me move this upward like that. So if the new cell isn't found, then we don't change anything. The selected cell remains. But this part is going to come in here. the part where we do an actual selection, but we're going to have an if statement. So if statements inside loops are very, very slow. So just to keep that in mind. So keep your if statements as limited as possible inside for loops, because like I said, your program will not know what the result of an if statement will be in advance, so it can't load instructions in advance because it doesn't know which instructions it will have to follow, because the if statement will break the code. It will either go in one direction or the other, but the code cannot know in advance what will happen. So that's why if statements are very slow. So you should avoid if statements inside loops as much as possible. Unfortunately here we can't avoid that, so we're just gonna have to do it. So here I'm going to say new cell dot class list dot add selected. But then we have to put an if statement here to oh wait a minute, we still need this part here. Yes, we do need this part here. So at the same time, if we do check for a cell and it's not the cell we're looking for, we should remove the selection there if it exists. But then when we do find the cell, we should add the selection. So I think there's no need to break here. Okay, saved by that. No need to break, because let's imagine for a second. Let me go back here. Let's imagine this is the cell that's selected, right? Oh, let's say this one is the one that's selected, and then I select this one. If I tell it to break, then by the time it gets to here and finds this one, it's going to break, and then it won't remove the selection on this one that's down here. So I'll let it continue looping, and so it can just remove what it needs to remove down there. Okay, so that all the other selections can be removed except for the one I've selected. Okay, so let's go here and put an if statement which will slow down our system. Yes, let's say if. Now before we put any if statements, we need to create some variables. So I'm going to say variable row is equal to the current item right now is this one. Okay, so I'm going to say that dot get attribute. So we get the attribute called row like that. Oh, sorry. So I'll duplicate this because we need to get the column as well. Column, like so. Okay, so once we have our row, we have our column, then we can have an if statement and say if, yes, if. So the selected cell is in here, right? So what we're checking for is the to select. If we find it, then we are golden. So here I'm going to say if to select dot row, because that's an object. Remember, we haven't created it yet, but just remember it's an object. So if to select dot row is equal to row, and to select dot column is equal to column. If both of those things are true, then that's our new cell. Then we're going to say new cell be equal to the current item, this one right here. So copy and paste there. So that's new cell right here. And then new cell dot class list dot add selected, blah blah blah. Very good. So let's put our curly braces there just to encapsulate everything inside this if statement. Okay, very good. Let me remove this selection right there. Okay, so hopefully this is making some sense. To select dot row. So now all we need to do is create the to select so that we know what it should be. Yes, so we just need a bunch of if statements here. So the first thing is, let's go back here and see exactly what we need here. So let's say, for example, our selection is here. If I press the left arrow key, then I have to go here. So the row number remains the same, but the name, column name, must change to something that came before it. Okay? So the only problem now here is that our system does not know all the columns that actually exist. Does it? No, it does not. So this is going to be a little bit of a problem. So because these are column names, it's going to be a problem. So how do we solve this problem? Let's change things a little bit, okay? I think it's easier to save numbers because, for example, if we're on this row and we want to go to the next row, we know if this is row number 1, then we just need row number 2. If this is column number 2, we're going to need column number 1. But in this case where the column names are actual names, then we must know what they are before we can even use them. So that is a problem. So how do we solve this problem? Okay, let's go back to our table creator here. So this is the refresh table. So right here where we are saying column and then we are putting an actual column name, let's change that to column name, like so. So put a capital N there for name. So you might be asking, why do we still need this column name? Well, we will need it for saving. When it comes time to save the data, we have to be able to know what column that data goes into. But still here, for the sake of selection on this side, we still need a column number. So I'm just going to say column like this and put a $, brackets, and then here instead of the key, I need an actual number, right? So how will I do that? Well, let me come back here. This is a loop that's going through here, right? So what I can do is create a variable right here to convert these keys into numbers. So I'm going to say var number, or you can just say count or whatever it is. Let's just call it number. Number is equal to 0. Okay, let's move that down there. And then once we get here, we increment number by 1. So since we want it to start at 0, we'll do the increment down there and we'll say number plus plus. So we add to the number and then we just copy that number and put it there. All right, so let's go back and see what we've done. Refresh. Yes. Now let's right click, inspect element. So as you can see, I have row 2, column 2, row 2, column 4, and so on and so on. Okay, so these are different columns, same row. Very nice. All right, so now that we have that, we have the recipe required in order to finish our function down here. Where is our function? The toSelect function here. We have what is required in order to finish it. So here, okay, column and row. Okay, so that's correct. That's all good. Okay, so that's all good there. So what we want to do now is create this function right here. Okay, so let's do that in the next video to avoid complicating things.